It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
And this is the biggest one, which are the dreamers / entrepreneurs. These are the people that, I made a joke earlier. This is your people who came up with YouTube or people who came up with Instagram, but there's more to that. There's a lot more, but let me give you the stats. 51% of wealthy are dreamers / entrepreneurs. 27% of them have failed at least once before they were successful.
I just think it's worth pausing there. This group of people is so unique in my mind because this is the kind of person, you just said 1 in 3 of these, 1/3 almost of these folks had to fail before they made it to success.
Exactly.
I know a lot of folks who they can't make it through one big failure. That would derail them. These are folks who have the wherewithal to go through a failure and still pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and continue to build to success. It's a unique type of person.
It's more emphasis on the drive. It's
That's
that
right.
behavioral side. There's something inside these people that's pushing them to keep striving to reach these goals. I thought it was one of the things about, because these are the people that are starting companies. These are the people that invent something, come up with a product of something. They're self-sufficient and have self-employment type income or business income that they've created. One of the things I thought was an interesting cross-reference is that Millionaire Next Door has the stat that 2/3 of millionaires are self-employed. So I was like, wait a minute, how do I square if this data point is saying 51, Millionaire Next Door is saying 2/3. Now I realize Millionaire Next Door was written in the mid-90s.
Sure.
So maybe the data points have changed. But here's the part that I think explains it a little bit better. 25% of the figure of the 2/3 from the Millionaire Next Door are self-employed professionals, such as doctors and accountants.
Okay, got
and
it.
I don't know if Mr. Corley included the doctors and the accountants because they are self-employed. But do they get the credit as being
Business
dreamers
starters, yeah.
and entrepreneurs?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to tell you because I'm a CPA background. Of course, we're dreamers, but it is one of those things where you wonder if the data if that's where they're a little separated, but that explains it. So let's talk about toolbox and maximization techniques. These starting a new business or starting a new endeavor is definitely a measure twice, cut once type of behavior.
Yeah, I think what's so beautiful about this, we talked about this in show prep, Brian. I think when we originally did this, we just had it labeled as dreamers.
Yeah.
That's what we called them. And then as we really started thinking about that, we said, you know what, dreamers isn't the key, because I have tons of friends who want to sit around and dream about all these amazing business ideas that they want to come up with, like, this innovative stuff. But when it actually comes to putting pen to paper and making it happen, they don't actually get there. So you can't just be a dreamer, just come up with the idea. You actually have to be able to put that idea into motion to turn it into something.
I think most businesses fail because of lack of preparation. And it's so sad to me because you realize you have passion, you realize you have talent, and you think that that's going to be what is going to separate you and drive you into success. The problem is you can't eat passion and talent. And it doesn't matter how good, how talented, how passionate you are about what you're doing. If you can't survive the onslaught of the first 3 to 4 years of taking something from idea and dream concept to actually deliverable, you're not going to make it. I don't care. You could be world class at what you're doing, but you better have a plan of action so that it is taking into account those 3 years. Because I can tell you, just from starting my company, when I first did it, I was me and a group of my buddies from high school that we had met back up at one of the holidays. I had just left the company I was working for, started my company, and one of my buddies brought his girlfriend, which has now been his wife of like 15, 20 years. And he was introducing me, and he says, and he just started his own company. And then she immediately looked at me and she goes, "Oh, I got a girlfriend that just got laid off too." And that was how. So when
you must have just got fired if you're starting your own company.
When you first start a company, I think people for the first 12 to 18 months are going, is this even going to work?
Right,
This is kind of kooky. I mean, why is it? Because that's the other thing. I had one of my other buddies. They're way too honest with me, by the way, because I was in my late 20s when I started my first company. And I remember one of my buddies, his actual ex-wife told me this later. I think she was trying to get at him and goes, yeah, his parents always say, what is Brian doing? Who does he think is going to even hire him? I mean, these are the things. I mean, these are the voices. This is what's going on the first 2 to 3 years. So you've got to have enough liquidity. You've got to build up enough cash to get over the naysayers and the people who are questioning, is this even smart? And then you're going to see after 2 years, people will start to kind of nudge in. They'll stick their big toe in the water of working with you. And then after 3 years, they're like, well, by God, he must be good at it. If he's still doing this, it must be working out. And then you'll notice people start loading up at that point.
And Brian, I've seen you do this, I don't know, nothing short of like 100 times over the last 10 years. Someone will come to you and they'll say, hey, I have this great business idea. I want to go out on my own. I want to start my own business. And I've heard you give the same advice over and over and over again about how they should approach that and the 3 plans they should lay out, right?
It's definitely one of those things. I think that because a lot of you guys are like, oh, I could do that. I could create a plan. I'm good in Excel. I'm good in Sheets. I'll go open up a Sheets and I'm going to set this thing up and I'm going to go ahead and start putting numbers to how rich I'm going to be.
Right.
And that is one of the scenarios you should run. One of your scenarios you can run is, holy cow, we're going to be rich.
Frankly, that's the most fun one to run.
It is the most fun. And that's probably going to be the first one people are going to do. But there's 2 more. And you have to choose the order you want to do these business plans or these spreadsheets that you're doing. But the first, there's one that we've got this, and this is what I think I'll make. This is the one that's probably most realistic to what will actually happen with your business. Right. The second one, as I've already told you, is the holy cow, we're going to be rich. And then here's the third one. Don't neglect this one. This was a horrible, devastating decision that I've made.
What have I done?
So you've got to run a business scenario assuming the worst.
And by the way, if when you do that and that worst thing takes place and you don't have a backup plan and it's, success or nothing, you may not have measured twice quite enough. You need to make sure that you do have a backup plan so that even if that worst case happens, it's still something that makes sense for you and your family.
Why do they make elementary school kids do fire drills? They want to prepare people for when something bad happens, it might feel foreign to you. Mm-hmm. There's a reason like military soldiers, they drill the same stuff over and over. You're hoping when you face a bad situation, at least if you've seen the theory, the concept, you might not have the same shock and awe moment as if it's the very first time you've experienced it.
But not all entrepreneurs, not all dreamers fail. Some of them are successful. And so what are some of the tools that you can use once you've had some success? What are ways that you can continue to set yourself up for success as you move through entrepreneurship?
We've kind of alluded to this when we were talking about one of the other paths to wealth, is that just like if you're an executive for a large public company, you need to separate your human capital from your financial capital. It's the same thing for entrepreneurs. This is going to be your baby. You're going to love this company. You're going to love seeing the success of it. But there is going to come a point where you've got to start building some separation of what's assets that are part of the business and then what are your financial assets outside of the business, so you can start creating some separation and have money just in case it's not always, a great day over here in the business world.
And then I think the other thing you have to do is you really have to understand what risk capacity is. For someone who has the wherewithal to go start a business, go out on your own, you have to be just a little bit crazy anyways. Like that has to already exist. You're already a cowboy. You need to recognize that while being a cowboy can be a wonderfully valuable, positive thing, you need to understand that at some point it probably does make sense to take a little bit off the table, to dial back some of that risk. Because we see it over and over and over again. These entrepreneurs who have won the game, they've reached financial independence, and they keep just rolling it into the next thing, into the next thing, into the next thing. And they're not setting themselves up for financial independence.
Well, nothing breaks your heart more than seeing people who've essentially won the game and still taking on additional risk. And here's the good news. I want to give some because we pick on our government a lot. I talk about our favorite taxing uncle all the time. The good news for my dreamers and entrepreneurs is that our favorite taxing uncle actually loves for you to save for retirement. Mm-hmm. They want you to save for retirement for your employees. They want you to save for retirement for yourself, and they incentivize that behavior. So make sure you do understand, and here's the process of the way this probably goes down when you first start a company, a SEP IRA. You need to know what that is. We have so much content on these concepts. Go out there and check it out. SEP IRA, solo 401ks. A normal 401k, a fancy 401k, and then you can even graduate to something like a cash balance plan.
Absolutely.